Well, you know, Rusty, I don't know. I'm not. I just watched Wonder Woman, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a Zionist superhero. Only Rusty will catch that. What he'll joke. He's probably chuckling now. Hi, I want to do another poetry reading here for you. Let's start off with the poem. Take. One second here. This poem was written October 13th, 2014. Take off the noose. Take off the noose and get comfortable. We may be here for a while. I wish I understood why this poem is taking such a long time to write. First, there was a title, then a couple of days later, the first line spilled out. And now two more lines are making an appearance. I have learned you take what you can get. Sometimes all there is to eat is ramen noodles. Then, maybe if you're lucky, a nice roasted chicken. And if you're really blessed, some chocolate cake with a glass of vitamin D milk to wash it all down with. Inspiration comes and then is gone just as quick. Go to the hardware store and buy some nice new rope. So when you hang yourself, everything will go off without a hitch. I refuse to ignore whatever gifts I may have been imbued with. The other day, I thought about jumping in front of a train, but decided to put those plans on hold and to instead enter the magic theater, ready to experience the fantasies that exist in my mind. I believe I may be both one of the suicides and one of the immortals. And that is why I am having such a difficult time deciding what to do next. This poem is entitled Tamra. I wrote this on my birthday, July 3rd, 2016. Stands there like a Bodhi tree, and I am awestruck like a little kid. We begin harmless or harmful, depending on how you look at everything and nothing. In the blink of a revolving eye. And I always wanted to see you naked, Tamara. Because I'm funny that way, like a Catskills comedian. And you are a goddess. And there is no denying that. Even when God's dead, and philosophy is gone on a respite. Let's shoot for the stars. And when we fail, let's give ourselves a much-deserved break and dance in the sun like two hot to trot polar bears, hell-bent on isolation and the cool serenity of another scotch-taped morning after. Excuse me. The forest is mankind's nightmare. This was written November 25th, 2014. Really enjoyed discussing movies with you tonight, Rusty. Wanted to say that. This is your show. I am just the white elephant in the room. I'm the red dragon on the merry-go-round everyone resists sitting upon, but secretly wishes to shoot into their jelly baby veins. This is your show. And I'm just more collateral damage that refuses to accept that it's dead. Believe what you want. It won't make a damn bit of difference when your stools are bloody and your doctor no longer returns your phone calls. It happens to every one of us. I elected for the surgery even though it was not elective surgery. And look at me now, just another bitter, dead atheist wishing they were a bland, alive Christian. When your chosen status becomes a monkey on your back, that's a good time to sell the farm and move to a city where no one knows your name or believes in your holier than thou status. This is your show. I'm just the rude house guest who refuses to vacuum and has eaten all of your hot pockets. That really happened. He was so mad. I'm the dragon you've been chasing long before Vietnam became a black eye. The United States of amnesia repeats every few years because occupation is the only language our government seems to understand. This is your show. And I'm just another Paddington orphan wishing someone would take me in from the cold and treat me like I was worth something. Wrote this December 26, 2016. Derelict Christmas. Let us share war stories of when we were both whores, and the insolvency of having nothing begat the heresy burning in our silent night eyes. I believe I'd be lost without you, until realizing being without you would only lighten my emotional load and make the sleigh bells tolling less invasive and stinging with reprisals. There's always been something that appealed to my Guthrie senses about jumping on a freight train as we flee from our nightmares like a raft of loons high on crazy glue, codependency, and our unwillingness to stay in one place for too long. I don't know how to explain how one word leads to the next and then to the next. But that's how I've always written these secret poems. As the canvas shrinks and the wall only becomes that much more difficult to climb. I've always been a restless son of a bitch, as my brain, like a team of Budweiser Clydesdales, does its best to get out of town, with its goodwill still somewhat intact. I have friends who believe they are artists, and I have friends who actually are artists, and never shall the twain meet, or for that matter, clumsily fuck in a bathroom stall, crawling with bugs and Catholic priests. You want to understand, even remotely, what it means to give yourself over to the darkness? You want to feel how unequipped most, if not all of us are for the death awaiting us, like another seasonal carnival or visit to the McBurglar proctologist. Trust me when I tell you, you're better off unchosen and loved. Because those of us who are unwashed and disenfranchised will never get used to the burn of another uninhabited Christmas day. Let us begin the work of casting off the hemorrhoids and the barnacles attaching to our backsides like another unread Oprah book club entry. Fuck her. There's nothing like pretending you're a celebrated saint, only to end up disassembled and cast aside on the floor of another spiteful child's restricting bedroom. I try to remember a happy childhood, but it is all in vain, because memories, like vampires, are best left in their coffins, unless you have a wooden stake and some garlic handy. If I could even begin to explain all the bullshit that came before whatever is coming next, maybe then I would be able to fall asleep, or at least pretend I was dead. I was suffering from a loss of oxygen, so I did my very best to regain some semblance of consciousness. But it was all in vain as I fell beneath the waves and became a little mermaid. There's always been something about the way you never look away when I stare into your dark eyes that reminds me how fortunate I am to be above ground and breathing and breathing. This poem is for Don Howland, who's no longer speaking to me. Shit happens. I should have known he was an egomaniac when he was on that release, Ego Summit. I'll never learn. This is Don't call Don on the phone, because he'll be like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? I surrender. Wide open exhaust for Don Howland. Tear it all down, Mr. Howland. It makes no difference anyhow. And this poem, probably, it won't impress you. Probably won't even reach you. But that isn't my fucking problem. And even if it is, I wouldn't own up to it. I wouldn't own up to it. There is shit, and there is Shinola. And what's in between is anyone's guess in these hellfire times where the good guys are on the run and the terrorists, they rule the roost. It's no small thing being a rock and roll intergalactic luminary, especially when the underground has gone the way of new sensations. And the wolf that was once waiting patiently at the door has been fed upon by vampire sheep high on a tenured professor's blood. You didn't feel like going anywhere. You wanted to stay in and deconstruct more songs from your fractured brainstem. But oftentimes, when the creative juices start to flow, you lose all control, and it's no longer up to you who will stay and who will go. Some people have no clue what it even means to make a difference in this corrugated world of Snapchat and drones that go bump in the night. While you have always been aware of how out of control things can get once the doors of perception have been cleansed, and you go cold turkey from the Ritalin you've been taking since you were a hyperactive child, and focus was a burden you could not square. It really doesn't matter if we ever play together, Don, because your diddly bow strangulated anti-sounds will reverberate inside my skull bank until I am either freed from my chains or my chains do me in. And this poem It's just my way of saying thank you. Thank you for never backing away from the fire because you know better. Because you know better than most. If you don't burn, then what's even the sense of waking up in the morning and taking a big healthy dump? Mind over matter, matter over mind. Everything is so confusing. Nothing in place. You want to change your surroundings? Why? Different place, same set of shit and consequences. Perhaps being a nomad would make more sense. Never staying in one place for too long. The perpetual rock and roller whose Bedouin ways keeps them on the not so straight and narrow. Why not? Why not? As long as the tickets they keep selling, why not stay on the road? No direction home, a complete unknown. We think we don't make a difference. We believe miracles can no longer exist in such well-worn and frayed times. Understand that the mystery is what keeps the wheels greased and the ghosts in the machine satiated and willing to stay out of sight and time out of mind. When the shit hits the fans, shiny blades, that is always the best time to hunker down because being one of the chosen means you never quit. You never quit. No matter how hot the desert is or how idiotic the status quo becomes. It's all mind over matter or matter over mind, depending on how you choose to look at things. And if you're willing to go that extra mile, no matter the conditions attempting to erase you. Rip the flesh from my face. So let's pull him out to Jeffrey Dahmer. Don't look in the freezer. Channeled energies synonymous with youth. There's piss and vinegar in your swagger. So delighted you never ran for public office. The black rain invaded our peace of mind. There was turmoil cutting us into halves before we even got close to the Temple Mount. She's a Zionist. God and gun. Both words have 3 letters and have caused way too much fucking bloodshed. You say guns and gods don't kill people? I call you on your bullshit. As Scientology cuts off the blood to your brain and you give into old resentments disguised as fresh hatred. Now, Jesus suggested we sit down and talk. I refuse to even look him in the swallows of his reworked face because I knew his past glories were more formative than anything I've so far accomplished in my Leave It to Beaver life. You want to rescue me? You think you can do me some actualized good? You think you won't be just another letdown as religiosity shakes me to my very core? More fabricated prophets and wolves disguised as golden calves knock upon my door. As I turn into one of the walking dead because it's simpler than revisiting the 12 steps. 1, 2, 4, 3. Poetry refuses to let me off the hook. Either you write what you know or you don't. It's that simple. Is you pump, more pump, pump, pump. Give it to me. Give it to me, big boy. You pump more of your photocopied words into the public discourse and are received as the next flavor of the month Messiah. Oh, this is the best vanilla I've ever had. I swallowed so many sour grapes I turned purple, and I reeked of a vineyard. The color purple didn't look good on me, so I did my best to hide in the anonymous ravings of another false, unrepentant wino. So delighted when you called me on my cell phone and finally accepted me for who I am and stopped rejecting me for not reaching the expectations you laid out, like Sunday clothes or a new and more restrictive skin. This next poem is entitled Evolution, and I wrote it December 2nd, 2017. I really need to just stop talking to that person I just texted. Anyway, this poem is entitled Evolution. Ready to grow. Moon pours through the trees. Cat pounces on dead tortoise. A slave to the art. Justifications and rationales do not exist. There is no glass. All therapists are full of shit. Every fucking one of them. Printing innards keeps me grounded and focused on what's possible. When she posts about assembling chapbooks, my loins start to quiver and shake. A means to an end doesn't mean a damn thing if you're not willing to commiserate. Ready to get up and go. Ready to go the distance, no matter pratfalls or syrupy endings. I desire to bring out the best in you by sharing only the best parts of myself. Two more. This is for Katie Boyd, Scottish gypsy. It's one of the few people I met on Facebook that I actually adore. I'd like to meet her. Neither one of us wearing any clothes or pretense. I hate pretense. Never know what shoes to wear with it. Cold Mountain. That's Rusty's recommendation, and mine too. Scottish gypsy for Katie. I want to taste you. It's never about the punctuation, because who really desires to stop? My words are intended to shake your timbers and leave you unmasked and naked in a puddle on the in-watermelon sugar floor. It's time to shoot the moon and kill another white racist president. It's time to bring down the world by ceasing and desisting from the red, white, and blue hypocritical politics of a country that never actually cared about taking care of its own. I'm not a fucking patriot, so you don't have to waste those empty words on me. I refuse to waste this one life on anything like dying for my country because my country gave up on me when I still had red hair and freckles covered my body like a red shroud. I need to freeze out all these destructive voices in my head and focus only on the rainbows between my webbed toes. I desire for her to suffocate me with all of her non-weight and her eyes that drill holes so deep into my skull bank you'd think we'd hit China before too long. I know tasting her is out of the question, and yet I still cannot stop thinking about the sweetness of her sweat and the tang of her electric Kool-Aid pulsating personality. My reputation has always preceded me. That's just the way it goes when you're Jewish Sicilian, which means you kill people and then you later feel guilty about it, or you make other people feel guilty about it. There's no bones about it. Threading a needle with a camel that looks like Salvador Dali is even harder than it may sound. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try and try again before giving up and fetching a liquid refreshment. I was buked and I was scorned, like every torch, singer, poet, troubadour before me. And still, I did my best to cross the desert because I knew manna from heaven was not always a certainty, or for that matter, a foregone conclusion in these days of boxed wine and plastic roses. I must get back up on the pony and ride into Jerusalem before it's too late and there are no more rooms at the inn. Joseph and Mary, they gave up on me in part because I don't look like either one of them, and also because they knew that this Savior business was a sticky wicket to get enmeshed in. From the very start, I wasn't looking forward to being crucified because there's not enough sunscreen to cover my sins. And when it comes to my Father forsaking me, I truly expected no less from a dad who was absentee right from the very beginning. This poem's entitled Cream of Wheat. It's for Lambria. Somebody else who's not speaking to me, so it probably is all about me. Not really, I just have really poor taste. I don't mean that about Don. I love Don. He's just crazy. Lambria, I don't know. Either she wasn't what she seemed, or she was too much of what she seemed, or she just couldn't handle me. She decided to settle for way less. Cream of Wheat. I'll read this for Rusty. Thinking about Nancy Betts, who I haven't talked to in years. I wonder if she's still not speaking to me. Cream of Wheat. I'm going to fix my hat, sorry. Okay. Thinking about you. How we never fucked. Because for you, it was all a ruse. Truly reprehensible how some people will take others for a ride. Giddy up! Do 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 do! And all because they're bored or frustrated. Or maybe they're just hateful human beings who like to make others as miserable as they are. She stood in the center of town proclaiming she was not a witch, when nothing could have been further from the elongated and tenuous truth. Excuse me. And when push finally came to shove, whoops, and she was burned, she lit up like a Roman candle until there was nothing left. Stop ignoring me, because it won't do any good. Actions must have consequences. And in your case, thinking you can just throw me under the bus and walk away with your ex-boyfriend's dick back in your mouth, it's both disgusting and truly sad on your part. She admitted, let's get this straight. She admitted he broke her, and she admitted it would be the biggest mistake to get back with him. And then, I've come to save the day. And then, that's exactly what she did. Because failure and demolition is all she has ever known. And even puppies sometimes have an awful time learning new tricks. I was in Chicago when it all began to unravel. Of course, it had been unraveling right from the start, and I knew it. I knew it. But I refused to face the truth because I enjoyed the distraction, and I liked when she would get naked and pleasure herself on camera for me. My life is a peep show, beep, without any quarters to have and to hold. I was in San Francisco trying to get my bearings when I disappeared into the shadows, and I finally learned how the other half doesn't live so easily. And the tenderloin is really not all that tender. Thinking about you. Even though you're now ignoring me because I guess that's easier than facing the fact that maybe you finally found someone who really does love you and isn't looking to break or rake you over the red hot coals. Coming up out of yourself, Limbria, it isn't a bad thing. And I hope someday you'll realize that being challenged or having your buttons pushed can be a wonderful experience. If you're only willing to break free from the same old, and are ready to accept change and nuance into your cream of wheat outlook.